God, I look crazy. It's because it's like 110 degrees outside. And I'm not allowed to put the fan or the cooler on because it'll mess up the sound. This is my 4th recording of the day. I've been doing this for 3 hours now. And I'm about to do it again for another hour. Okay. Today we're doing Wonder Woman. She lives a solitary lifestyle on Paradise Island with all her sisters. And you're going to learn all about it today on Comicology. So basically, Wonder Woman is an icon, and she has been since her inception way back in 1940 or whatever. Here's the thing. There's some serious history behind the concept of this character, but I don't really care. I'm not really going to get into it. Essentially, I'll just put it as short as possible. Wonder Woman was created by Charles Moulton, right? And he based his character off of traits he observed from his wives. Yes, I said wives. There were 2 of them. Again, this is none of my business. I don't care. I'm really good at killing the author, so this makes no difference to me, but some people, you know, get agitated about those kinds of things. So he may or may not. He created Wonder Woman, and he may or may not have been simultaneously participating in sort of a polygamy and I guess some kind of BDSM stuff. I don't know. I don't care. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I don't judge. But I guess, I don't know, I guess some of the themes might come across in the comic itself, depending on how you read it. I don't choose to read it that way. I mean, Wonder Woman might be some kind of secret deviant. I don't know. I look at her as a superhero, and that's it. I actually have a motto in life. My motto is, you humans can do whatever the hell you want, as long as you keep it on that side of the screen. Alright? Anyway, let's get back to what matters. Comic books. So the first story of Wonder Woman actually doesn't take place in a Wonder Woman book. She was first ever printed in the back of All-Star Comics number 8, which is actually a book dedicated to Justice Society stories. For those who don't know, the Justice Society was a team-up of DC's Golden Age comic heroes. A lot of them were second tier, like Superman and Batman were members, but they didn't really ever show up. Flash was a primary member, Green Lantern was a primary member. They had a lot of C-list heroes like Sandman and the Atom would go and be a member of the Justice Society. Anyway, for those who really don't know, Wonder Woman did join the Justice Society for a while, but she wasn't a member. They made her the secretary. How prestigious, right? Anyway, that was the first appearance of Wonder Woman. The second part of that story was printed in Sensation Comics number 1, where she was actually receiving top billing on the cover, because at that point they kind of understood how popular she was. I'll be covering both stories today in this episode, which tells the tale of Wonder Woman, her origins, her backstory, and how she came to be a part of our world. So I guess strap in, because this is going to be a pretty long one. The story begins on Paradise Isle, where the Amazons live in harmony away from the world of men. Except for today, because today an American pilot named Steve Trevor happens to be in a dogfight over Paradise Isle and crash lands in the home of the Amazons. Diana, Princess of the Amazons, is immediately enthralled by the man and makes quick steps to rescue him. She takes him to the hospital where the doctor cares for him. However, Diana refuses to leave. She is seemingly obsessed with the new man since she has never seen one before in her life. As a result, the doctor becomes concerned and notifies Queen Hippolyta of Diana's strange behavior. Diana is called to the throne room where her mother tries to reason with her, but Diana is smitten. Then her mother begins to tell her the story of the Amazons and the origin of their isle. So at this point, things break down from panels and become these sort of like spoken word paragraphs, these long blocks of text which explain the backstory of the Amazons. It's a bit long-winded, so I'll summarize it as best as I can. Early in the history of Greece, Queen Hippolyta ruled over a nation of only women known as Amazonia. She did this with a magic girdle, which granted her the blessings of Aphrodite. This was until Hercules, the strongest man on Earth, conquered Amazonia and imprisoned the Amazons. But by the way, if you're wondering what a girdle was, that's what that is. I was wondering. By pleading with Aphrodite, Queen Hippolyta was eventually able to overthrow Hercules and free the Amazons from captivity, but from that point forward, they would never trust men again. They set out to wander the sea and eventually settled on Paradise Island, where they enjoyed the blessings of Aphrodite in peace, but under the stigma that if any man should ever step foot on their island, Aphrodite would take back their blessings and leave the Amazons to fend for themselves. Then she shows Wonder Woman this clock she calls the Magic Sphere. Apparently with this device, the Amazons can see through time and witness events from outside of their own senses. They look into the past to discover exactly how Steve Trevor came to be on their island, and they find out that he was actually a member of the US military, with a job of hunting down spies. He fails, however, and is captured by the men he was sent to stop. They drag him to a secret Air Force base where they strap him into a remote-controlled plane. They then use the plane to drop bombs on American soil, which incriminates Steve Trevor as a terrorist. Steve wakes up in the middle of the operation and attempts to dogfight against the spies, but it turns out they're skilled pilots and he ends up getting shot down instead. Without any options, he makes a crash landing on a nearby island, which happens to be Paradise Island. Did you get that? I hope you got it, because we're all caught up now. So now we've come to the business of who will take the job of escorting Steve Trevor back to the world of men. Diana volunteers, but Hippolyta decides she wants to hold a competition, and the job will go to the winner. The participants compete in a series of challenges, but ultimately it's up to a game of bullets and bracelets to settle the score. So let me explain, because bullets and bracelets aren't really explained very well. Basically, they have bulletproof bracelets that they wear, and they're going to see who can survive an onslaught of bullets using their bracelets only to defend with. It's complete suicide, but that's how it's done. The two Amazons play bullets and bracelets, and one of them is defeated. Now the champion is declared, but in a very obvious plot twist, it turns out the champion is actually Diana in disguise. Now her mother must let her leave to the world of men, but not before giving her a sweet new ambassador's costume and renaming her Wonder Woman. So that's it. That's the first story. Wonder Woman leaves Paradise Island with Steve Trevor under the stigma that she could never return, except it's not really explained why she could never return. There is no logic to that plot point, and future writers understood that because it would be retconned on many occasions. Wonder Woman would go back to Paradise Island all the time. Men would go to Paradise Island constantly. The rules really weren't set in stone, but for now we're supposed to continue reading under the assumption that Wonder Woman would never return and would now have to find a life for herself away from her Amazon sisters. So now she's established. Let's talk a little bit about Wonder Woman's skills and abilities. First of all, she's an Amazon, and as a result of her Amazonian physiology, she is granted incredible strength and durability. She is above and beyond anything that's capable of a human. In fact, Wonder Woman is closer in strength to Superman. But she's not stronger than Superman. She's able to lift about 80 tons. Wonder Woman has another interesting ability, in fact. She is actually, because she is a mythological being, she's technically immortal. This is also due to the fact that there is a special location on Paradise Island known as the Fountain of Eternal Youth, which grants the Amazonians immortality. As a result, Wonder Woman is immortal. She will outlive everybody, including Superman. So Wonder Woman is strong, but though she isn't as strong as some of the heavy hitters in the DC universe, she is more skillful than most of them. She is probably the best fighter, if not one of the best fighters in the DC universe. She is also a master of weapons. She's capable of using firearms, but she prefers hand-to-hand combat and close quarters weapons. She has a sword that is actually so legendarily sharp that it has the ability to cut atoms. In fact, there are some instances in comic book history where Wonder Woman has sliced an atom in half to cause a nuclear explosion. She is also good with shields for defense. She's mastered shields. She is also being able to use spears and clubs as weapons. Of course, she is a hand-to-hand fighter. She was taught by Amazonians. She doesn't know any specific martial art. She knows some kind of form of Amazonian hand-to-hand combat. It's somewhere between Greco-Roman wrestling and boxing. She is a pilot. She can fly planes. She is an equestrian. She is very good on horses. And she is a gymnast. She has superhuman agility, which means she can flip and jump and do all kinds of crazy stuff that you couldn't even believe. And also, Wonder Woman is a registered nurse and a qualified secretary under her alternate identity of Diana Prince. In addition to her skills and abilities, Wonder Woman also has these sort of advanced pieces of Amazonian technology. Apparently the Amazonians are very advanced in their technology. Scientifically, they're far beyond what humankind was at the time. A lot of these things, because they're golden age, don't seem that special to us. But back then they were really advanced in technology. First and most prominently is her Lasso of Truth, which is essentially an unbreakable lasso. It's magically imbued with the properties of truth, so anybody who touches it must speak the truth. Most people cannot bear to touch it because it fills them with overwhelming truth. She uses it to interrogate people and things like that. Wonder Woman can touch it whenever she wants, however long as she wants, because it's often said that Wonder Woman is pure. Wonder Woman is pure and unable to tell a lie. That's true in some continuities, not in all continuities. But for the most part, that is what the Lasso of Truth is capable of. There is also Wonder Woman's tiara. She wears it on her head. It's mostly benign, but it's actually secretly this sort of boomerang weapon, which she uses as a ranged throwing device. It sort of works kind of like Captain America's shield, where she'll throw it and, you know, it'll rip into somebody and then it'll return right to her and she puts it back on her head. It's very magical in nature in that sense. Then there is her invisible jet. Her invisible jet is, well, it's an invisible jet. It's just a jet that's made of some kind of invisible technology. It's often seen as Wonder Woman just sort of, it's weird because she'll just be like sitting in just clear space and just propelling, and nobody realizes that it's actually a jet. But that's how she travels before she gains her gravitational abilities, which in later continuities would allow her to fly. Her invisible jet is what she would use to travel the world and get to all her different locations and go on her adventures. In addition to that, there is also, of course, the magical sphere, which I just mentioned, which allows her to look into the past, present, future, or anywhere in the universe. It will show her whatever she needs to know at the time. It's sort of like a compacted sort of library, all information in one little area, kind of like Google. And then finally, she has this Amazonian radio. It's sort of like a magical radio device, which allows her to contact anybody. She can talk to anybody through it. It's like a special terminal, which she keeps in all of her hideouts, which is, again, just basically a cell phone. But back then that was cutting edge stuff. So that's it. That's the basics of Wonder Woman. That's basically who she is. So now that we know that, let's get into her first adventure. This second story begins right after the first one ended. Wonder Woman has just left Paradise Isle and is in her invisible jet heading over to America. While in the plane, Steve Trevor wakes up with just enough time to notice Wonder Woman and call her an angel. I'm sure she's flattered by this, but when they land, she holds up in a barn, which she uses as a temporary hideout, and then takes Steve Trevor to the closest hospital, where she drops him off and just bolts before anyone can ask any questions. Yeah, dude, before you know it, she is out of there. But it's actually a good thing, because now we can get into this really sort of funny fish out of water stuff, where Wonder Woman is this mythological creature sort of just walking around this metropolitan city. It's actually pretty good stuff. Check it out. Wonder Woman takes a walk and does some window shopping. She finds that she likes our human outfits. But these women over here badmouth her for the way she looks, but they're just, of course, jealous because Wonder Woman is apparently super thick and doesn't mind showing it off. Then suddenly there's some gangsters across the street and Wonder Woman has to stop them. They, of course, think that she's a joke until she shows them her bullets and bracelets tricks. Then she grabs one of them by the arm and with her super strength tosses him across the street like a rag doll. Needless to say, they come quietly, except for when this policeman shows up and starts to ask Wonder Woman some questions. As we know, Wonder Woman doesn't answer questions and she bolts off in a flash. And I mean literally in a flash, because there's this guy chasing her down in a car, and he claims to be going 80 miles per hour, and he still can't catch up with her. Eventually they have a chat, and he explains that he's actually a talent agent, and he wants to give her a stage show to make some money. This is really interesting, because at 80 miles per hour, Wonder Woman is shown in this issue to technically be faster than Superman, though Superman has chased cars before, as we've seen in his episode. Wonder Woman agrees and performs her bullets and bracelets tricks for the crowd, who eat it up like candy. She finds herself becoming famous and wealthy with her talents, but quickly decides to quit when she discovers that Steve Trevor has made a full recovery in the hospital. The talent agent, however, is not too pleased to be losing his star talent and tries to get away with her share of the money. This doesn't make a difference, however, because Wonder Woman just drops down like 3 stories like it's nothing and catches the man before he can get away. Thus ends Wonder Woman's very brief career in stage show performance. Next, Wonder Woman returns to the hospital, only to discover a young crying girl sitting on the steps. She asks what's wrong, and the girl responds that she wants to move to South America and marry her sweetheart, but she can't afford it. Wonder Woman does the generous thing and gives the lady enough money and then steals her identity as Diana Prince. So at this point, Wonder Woman's secret identity is Diana Prince. Whoever this lady was, Wonder Woman just takes her identity, takes her job, takes everything that she had, sends her to South America to go marry her sweetheart, and from now on we just know her to be Diana Prince. But this is actually fortunate because Diana does happen to be a nurse at the hospital that Steve is staying at. They would do this, of course, to keep them close together. Wonder Woman needs to be close to Steve Trevor and to invent new and interesting ways to subvert the tropes that started with Superman, but we'll talk about that more later. So now Steve Trevor is awake, but he's nowhere near healthy enough for service, but he doesn't care and he storms off to get his revenge on those dirty spies. As a result, Wonder Woman must chase him down and help him before he makes his injuries even worse. So, as you can see, Steve is kind of a loose cannon. He's always just going off half-cocked without really thinking about his decisions. This is an important part of the character, specifically in the Golden Age, where that trait would be used to invent new and dangerous situations for Wonder Woman to resolve. Again, this completely analogs the relationship that Superman had with Lois Lane. So then Steve gets into a dogfight with some spies, but they end up crashing into each other. Steve is now in a free fall and accepts his own death when suddenly Wonder Woman comes flying by in the invisible jet and makes a 1 in a million catch to save his life. That was actually pretty cool. Now that Wonder Woman and Steve are reunited, they notice actually that one of the spies is falling by parachute and they decide to pick him up. He's badly injured, but he gives them the location of the secret base from which the spies are making a deadly poison to use as a weapon against the Americans. It's been a long journey on this one, but we're finally getting to the end. Here comes the climax of the story. Wonder Woman and Steve land on the island and just start destroying everyone. Wonder Woman makes short work of the spies, and her superior strength and fighting ability makes it almost impossible to best her. This gives Steve enough room to destroy the poison with his sidearm. Knowing that they have been defeated, one of the spies causes the base to self-destruct. The massive explosion leaves nothing but wreckage. Wonder Woman is mortified, but finds relief when she discovers Steve under some rubble. He's badly injured, but Wonder Woman takes him to the hospital where she plans to secretly nurse him back to health. Then the issue ends with Steve Trevor telling Diana Prince that he likes her and everything, but she's just nothing compared to that Wonder Woman. The irony is beautiful. I love it. I love it because it's just like Superman, and I love Superman. Okay, let me explain. Let's get into it. Wonder Woman, despite being entirely original, she's an entirely original creation, she bears so much resemblance to Superman that it's almost uncanny. First of all, there are obvious traits like her American color scheme, her enhanced strength and durability, and her penchant towards heroism. However, there are more subtle similarities as well. Both characters come from a place of magical origin. They're granted incredible abilities, but which they can never return from. Both assume the identity of a mild-mannered individual and get a bold and determined sidekick with a job which requires them to be rescued often. And both of them struggle in a love triangle between them, their alter ego, and the person that they love. And the person that they love always happens to be their sidekick. But I want you to keep in mind, I'm not dismissing Wonder Woman here. I think she's a wonderful character. I enjoy her tremendously. Because none of these things are bad things. This is good storytelling. You know, it's entertaining. It's the story of Superman told again, but from the perspective of a female. And that's fun to read because it subverts those expectations. It's like Wonder Woman is a woman. I like that her love interest is a man and that he often needs help. I like that she's unashamedly strong. I like that she's competent. These are not bad traits. And apparently the rest of the world thought so too, because Wonder Woman is now one of the most popular comic book characters of all time. She is an image that is recognized as a symbol of hope and female empowerment literally all over the globe. So that's it. That's basically what the character comes down to, is she is essentially a Superman. But where Superman would be masculine and aggressive, Wonder Woman is more inclined towards compassion and femininity. It's a small distinction, but I think it's one that makes all the difference, especially considering comic books are a medium where rampant aggression is often the solution to all problems. I mean, how many problems in comic books were solved by punching the villain and calling it a day? Wonder Woman, I mean, she doesn't really do that, except she does. Something to think about. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks everybody for coming to read this with me. Before I go, I wanted to tell you guys that if you could subscribe and like this video, I'm working my ass off to get these things done. And it's getting hard. I kind of feel like I need a little bit more support. So if you guys could like these things or share it. Or if you really want, I do make comics on my own. I made this comic up here. It's called Vigilance. It's about a dark and brooding vigilante who comes to New York to lay waste to all the criminals there. It's actually an interesting murder mystery story. I want to get it done. It's a 6-issue miniseries and I just published the first one. So I'm hoping for some support from you guys so that I can hopefully get all 6 issues done. But in the meantime, thank you everybody. I will see you all in the next one.